Good morning. It's November the 8th. It's a brisk 38 degrees outside this morning. I'm going to show you some ice here that may be a little difficult to see, but there was a skim of ice on everything out here on the deck that had water on it. But what I wanted to do was give you an update on the vegetables that I've planted for my winter garden here on the deck in pots. So let's get started with it. Okay, this is the arugula. Yeah, Lucy, check it out for Daddy. And right beside it is some lettuce. Not sure which one, I didn't mark those. This, of course, is some turnip greens. Is there anything in that puppy? Here we have two varieties of lettuce. The red lettuce you see here, I bought those seeds from an individual through Amazon. That was a big mistake. I will go back to the seed stores from here on out. The germination rate on that red lettuce has been horrible every time we've planted it. Now, it has a good taste when it grows, but it's a lot of aggravation when you're trying to plant plants in the spring for starts and very little of it comes up. This, of course, is our mustard greens. Looks like I'm going to need to pull a few leaves out of here, get them out. Even though it got down well below freezing last night, it's doing fairly well. It would do a lot better, of course, if it were warm weather. And this is another planter full of turnip greens. That got planted just a tad bit later. And over here, I refer to them as my balloons, are the pots that had the broccoli rabe, the carrots, the radishes, and the Swiss chard planted in them. I'm going to take one of these covers off and show you exactly how I've tried to winterize them. And if you will remember, these plants that are up against the wall of the sunroom were out here on this deck railing earlier, but it just made more sense to give them a little protection by putting them against the house. Now, this coming Tuesday, our high is only supposed to be in the mid-30s. We're supposed to have possibly a winter mix, and our nighttime low is supposed to drop down to 19. That'll be a real test to see how this little winter vegetable garden in pots is going to do. All right, I'm going to cut one of these balloons, as I refer to them, open and let you guys see how I put these covers on. They're simply frost covers that I picked up from, that actually came from Rural King. We've got several big box stores in town that carry farming supplies, etc. But this actually, the frost cover came from Rural King, and it wasn't really expensive. If you noticed, this is just yarn. In true homesteading fashion, make do with what you have. I didn't have any baling twine or any other type of cordon, but the wife had bought this camouflage yarn probably 10 years or more ago. She didn't like it. It's not cotton. It's kind of a polyester fiber, so it's lasting a long time, and I use it quite often in my garden. All right, as you can see, this is the pak choi. If you'll remember, pak choi is a variety of bok choy that is actually a little smaller. These plants came up a little thicker than I had thought they would, and eventually as they get larger I may pull some of them and we'll actually eat the little greens. They're most definitely a delicious little variety of bok choy. By being the small variety, it's a little easier to grow typically. And as you can see, all I've done is, for our garden, when we covered our cabbages and things last year, it's much cheaper than trying to buy pre-made hoops to go online and buy a roll. This came from Growers Solutions, and it's a little heavier gauge wire than normal. It would have been very difficult to cut this with just wire cutters. It's that coarse and stiff. But I have a pair of bolt cutters which work just fine. So I've cut 2 hoops, pushed that down on each side into the ground here, and I crisscrossed them, and I took a little piece of wire that I had in the house, and I cut 5 of those pieces of wire so that I could tie them together. Now, these pots are a little bit large, so I wanted to make sure I could tuck that cover into the bottom of under the pots. So I cut it 7 foot long and it's 6 foot wide. It doesn't quite cover the pot as well as I really would have liked, because there are some spaces, but by doubling it over when I go to wrap it in the cord, it works just fine. And as you can see from the wind blowing it, if it wasn't tied on there securely, it wouldn't stay on. Alright, I'm going to tie this one back up, and I'll be back with you guys shortly. To tie these things up, I've simply come down below the lip of the pot and tied 1 string. Very tight. Now I'm going to take quite a length of this and wrap it several times before I finish tying it off. Alright, as you can see on the other pots, I like to wrap several layers of my twine, string, yarn, whatever you're putting on your pots. And remember, right down here at the bottom, I have the corners up underneath the edge of the pots. As I said, next Tuesday will be the real test, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. I will be out here checking on them late in the afternoon after it warms up a little bit on Tuesday.